Nerds International proudly presents
Welcome to the 3T RPG podcast, a podcast all about tabletop RPGs.
Do you ever get bored of saying that?
No, I love it.
No.
I love it. It's my favourite. It's my favourite thing to say.
You wake up in the morning and say it to your wife.
I do. She's like, "What the hell are you saying?"
Welcome to the morning.
Welcome to the morning. My name's Harrison Hunt, and with me is
Nick Lamley.
good stuff. Today we've got such a pod.
Oh,
Like you wouldn't believe. We got the feedback. We got what you're slaying. We got the main subject, which today is going to be Mutant Cruel Classics RPG.
Yes.
I like mutants. I like classics.
I like crawling.
And so stick it all together, and you've got something real nice.
Real nice.
And then we got a new segment, Brain in the Oven. Deal with it.
Deal with that.
And then we got Dragon or Blagon, followed by Electro Letters.
Ooh, yes, with a little live bit as well, maybe.
There might be a little surprise in there for you. So, feedback. Let's do it.
Let's do this.
The feedback side. The feedback side. Yes, bitch, the feedback side. It's the feedback section. Yeah, we take your comments and read them out. Yeah, feedback, bitch. So, the only feedback we actually had that was worth talking about got deleted, and I couldn't find it.
Oh, what? When?
I don't know. So Terry sent us a bloody thing for us to discuss, but I can remember the gist of it because I asked him to try and find it and he couldn't. So Terry, he comes in and he says how to do character motivations in a game.
Right.
He said that he listened to our sandbox episode and that he thought it was great, but one of the biggest things is character motivations. So how can you have all these character motivations for like 300 different people? And I think I answered that kind of in the last podcast anyway, because I was like, a really good way is to base them off people you know, and then you already know what they're after.
Well, exactly that, yeah. And,
Mostly.
And once you've got a kind of skeleton of the idea, it just grows with the game.
Also, there's a table in Vornheim which kind of gives character motivations.
Oh man, yeah, just buy that book.
Yeah, you buy that book and use that, or draw up a table of random motivations.
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't have to be something amazing. If their motivation's money, well then just think about why, and then boom, you've got a decent little char on your hands.
Easy peasy.
But that's it really for feedback, because it was one question that we didn't even have, really.
That's the worst feedback section we've ever done.
Never mind. No, there was lots of praise for the new episode of Dirt Boy Blues and stuff.
Yes, there was.
But I'm going to stop reading that out in the feedback section, because it just seems like every time we do it, it's just us going, we're great.
Circle jerk.
Circle jerk is right, man. Alright, let's get on to what we've been playing.
Yeah.
With What You're Slaying. One of these! Oi! Yeah? What you slaying? So, we've been playing Lamentations of the Flame Princess.
Oh, yeah.
People will no doubt notice that the campaign updates they've come to a screeching halt.
Yeah, what happened?
I couldn't keep up doing them. It was just taking too long.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case. I was like, oh, he's bitten off a lot here.
Exactly, that's exactly it. I was having to write up every campaign in that like really cinematic way, and it just took too much time. So
that's right. So it's an intro. We did an intro to Lamentations.
Yeah, shelved it for now. I might go back to it at some point.
To be fair, we could always do like build them up and sit and do a 2-person kind of review maybe or something like that in the future. So we do remember everything that happens, and we tend to do. We've got record of it on our little Facebook group, haven't we?
Exactly.
So we won't forget what happened.
So with Lamentations, the Flame Princess, we're currently in the midst of a campaign where it's. Well, I wanted to take one of the most basic plots ever and turn it into something fun. So the literal plot is there's an evil wizard about.
Yep.
But it's way more complicated than that. There's a war going on. There's all sorts of missions. These guys,
magical barbarians,
and in addition to that, there's these 3 lenses that the guys are trying to track down before the bad guy does. Yeah. And it's pretty amusing at the moment because you guys buried one and then he found it.
Got rumbled so hard.
And speaking of rumbles, there was also a grub fight at one point where these guys got involved in like an illegal animal fighting
ring for a bit.
Oh man, do you know what? We are so we get sidetracked so easily.
It's true, man.
I think it's my fault, to be fair.
Well, last time we did it probably for about an hour of you guys buying a house and going around with the realtor. So,
we want a secure tent.
Yeah, that was really funny, man. So they've now got a 20-foot square tent. Mm-hmm. But Lamentations essentially is a OSR game. It's kind of a retro clone type game.
Yeah.
But it's known as weird role-playing, and as we spoke about in the past, like this really comes into fruition with a lot of the modules and things like this. The actual game itself is so simple to play as well. If you like fantasy games and you don't like all the guff of 5e and stuff like that, then pick this up.
Oh, totally.
So worth it.
Yeah, it's really, really streamlined. It's not clunky at all, is it?
Exactly, so much fun. And that brings me on to... Oh my god, I'm just trying to get my old book out.
Look at that.
Yeah, so Nick, I want to give a shout out to a listener, Nick Hopkins. Recently went to UK. I just turned around while I was talking. He recently went to UK Games Expo, and he put in the Lamentations group, if anybody needs anything from there, then let him know. And so I picked up the Adventure Anthology Death, and that's got Death Love Doom in it, which I'm not sure if it's related to Death Frost Doom or not, but it's got the Cursed Chateau, I think, is in there as well.
Yeah.
But there's one really cool adventure at the back of it that's literally an adventure made entirely up of random triggers, and that's on those black pages at the back. Them. So the thing is the whole adventure is told, well, the whole story is told like this. So you might get one where the first time you go into an inn, this happens.
Damaged by an animal.
Yeah, damaged by an animal. That's one of the triggers. There's one that's buying equipment, and the first ever trigger is that when they're in a dark woodland area, a man dressed in black points at them and goes, "You will suffer." And then he just disappears as quickly as he came. It's really cool.
It's wicked. It definitely feels like Lamentations like to kind of come in with unique kind of ideas. I mean, I don't know if I haven't read that much OSR, but it seems like some of the stuff I see in Lamentations books I haven't seen elsewhere.
Yeah, they're very creative with the way they do stuff. Yeah. I think there's a lot of ones that. Well, not a lot. There's a few that could be considered generic, but you read Vornheim versus a Lankmar or...
Oh dear.
Yes, Nick's just showing me a piece of art from the book. It's disgusting. But yeah, like Vornheim and all of those things, like if you read any other city kit, you kind of... Vornheim has all these tools, and even the cover is a tool.
Oh, that's what I mean,
And the dust sheet, or whatever you call it, is the map, and it's things like that are just creative and really make the products more interesting.
Tools, they love a tool, and for that we love them. I like the sound of the last adventure. Second to last adventure. It's called Fuck for Satan.
Yeah, I saw that. I haven't dared to read it yet.
So, but yeah, no, it's a lovely book. It's a cracking book, and thank you very much to Nick. Great name.
It's one of the great names.
It's great. It's one of the greatest names ever made. Awesome.
But that's it for what we've been slaying. Just suffice to say to go out and play some Lamentations if you get a chance.
Yes, totally.
It's got a free PDF, and also, the books are well cheap, so just grab them.
And it's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
It is.
Should we mutate horribly as we enter into the next section?
It's time to mutate horribly, grow an extra arm, and use it to climb into the next section.
Oh, yeah.
Main. Subject. Magic. Main. Subject. Tokyo. Main. Subject.
So this is going to be a very different main subject this time, because we're going to start with an interview with Jim Wampler, the writer of Mutant Lord Classics. And that's going to be all about how the game came about, his inspirations, that type of thing. And then we're going to go on to the review of the actual book with me and Nick. So the voices you're now going to hear are going to be mine and Jim's doing the interview. Enjoy! Oh man, well, it is an absolute honour to have you on here, but for those that don't know, Jim is the writer of Mutant Lord Classics, and I believe you worked on one of my favourite supplements ever, 50 Fantastic Functions for the D50?
Yes, I did.
That's such a great book. So we've got Jim here to talk about Mutant Lord Classics and enlighten us on what it's all about, because it is the best RPG ever made. Would you say that, Jim?
I would not say that under any circumstances, but I hear you, and it's much appreciated. It's the whole reason I do what I do is to use my brain and hands to make cool stuff for other people to enjoy.
So, before we begin, obviously we need to know the man behind the brain and hands. So, if you want to talk about your introduction into role playing.
My name's Jim Wampler, and I've written lots of stuff, Mutant Crawl Classics, some Dungeon Crawl Classics, and Metamorphosis Alpha Adventures, and currently working on a superhero game that won't be released for a year or two for Frog God Games. I started in 1979, and having grown up in a small rural town in Kentucky, the Dungeons and Dragons thing hadn't penetrated where I grew up. I lament that I was old enough. When D&D came out, I was 13. I could have been playing. I just didn't know about it till I got to college. So the Dungeons and Dragons hadn't gotten to where I lived when I was very young. But I get to college in '79 and am introduced by a bunch of those first generation players to it. Around the time the first AD&D books were coming out and Holmes' basic box set, and jumped in with both feet. And my second game, I've run 3 big campaigns in my life, and I obviously ran a D&D campaign, but the second game I picked up was Gamma World and fell in love with it at first sight, that very first box set. And that's part of how I came to Mutant Crawl Classics. I've run every that Gamma World campaign off and on went on for 30 years up until the 2000s, and I ran every edition of Gamma World. I think at the end it was pretty much Gym World because I was using Mutant Futures from Goblinoid Games for my rules. The first edition of Gamma World for the setting with a little of the fourth mixed in, and then all my stuff.
So there are some people that I know that consider our campaigns that take 1.5 years to be long. So 30 years, Jesus.
Well, that would be, evolving pieces of my initial group included my younger brother, his high school buddies, my college friends. We periodically get together and revisit things, and at the end included my nephews. So that's kind of a family thing. The genesis of Mutant Crawl Classics was I'd gotten into gaming. As you get, it may not have happened to you yet, but there'll be years where you have to go be a career guy or get married or have kids or whatever. You fall out of it. I'd gotten back in around 2005, and my brother and I had a tech startup at the time, and we're walking around with a lot of stupid money. At the same time, Jim Ward was looking for angel investors to get the 4th edition of Metamorphosis Alpha published. So my brother and I decided to do it, and that was the start of my little indie game publishing company, Mud Puppy Games. And it was I'm glad we got the book out, but it was a big learning experience because we just didn't know what we didn't know when we didn't know it. So we lost a bunch of money, but we got the book out, and I became acquainted with Jim Ward and got back into gaming. It got me back into gaming and going to conventions. Then Joseph Goodman came out with the brilliance that is Dungeon Crawl Classics. I was going through one of those phases where I was looking to get back into some kind of traditional D&D. There's, this was before 5th edition, so 4th edition's out there. We tried it. We didn't care for it. There are all these retro clones cropping up, Castles and Crusades, Swords and Wizardry, Pathfinder, which became much more than that later. And about that time is when Dungeon Crawl Classics came out. There were playtests going on at conventions I attended that before publication that I didn't know about. Funny side story, I met Michael Curtis at a GaryCon when he just walked up to my artist table and said, I hear you're going into town to make a run. Can you get me a pack of smokes? Because he smoked back then. That's how I met Michael Curtis.
That's crazy. So, as I recall, I was listening to your Spellburn episode, and you said on there that you were pitching this to Goodman Games for a year. Is that right?
It was probably longer than that. The point is, I glommed onto Dungeon Crawl Classics right away because it wasn't. I mean, it was only technically a retro clone. Joseph had made a couple of, I think, genius moves in there where he had gone back and leaned into the Appendix N literature that is in the original Dungeon Master's Guide. That was the pulp genre stuff that inspired Gary Gygax and those guys, and so that gave it a whole new a flavor because things become less and less it's like Star Trek. Star Trek starts out as this anthology show to kind of do science fiction version of Jonathan Swift and Twilight Zone morality tales. But the further Star Trek progresses, it becomes more and more about Star Trek. And
totally.
D&D kind of did that. And so Joseph just took it back to the original inspiration sources, and that plus the rule system he built, I was all in, and quickly realized that I, spent 30 years wanting to write my own version of Gamma World, and here was my entry point. This was the model. And
so, I guess what we should probably touch on, just for those listeners that don't know, who have been living under a rock, what is Gamma World and what is Mutant Crawl Classics? How did the one inspire the other?
Well, I'll start with the easy part. Mutant Crawl Classics is the biggest Valentine I'm capable of writing to Gamma World. Gamma World and the game that preceded it, Metamorphosis Alpha, both originated with Jim Ward, and their the elevator pitch is it's science fiction D&D. The same dynamic. You're a group of adventurers out, exploring the wilderness, going underground, killing monsters, and stealing their stuff. I had a simple job, which was just do all the same stuff Joseph Goodman did. So I went back and got freshened myself up on Brian Aldiss books and Stanley Lanier and I'm sorry, I thought I was properly caffeinated for this. Much of the same literature that inspired Jim Ward to do Gamma World, I went back and reread and freshened myself up on and tied to that. So it's a much further in the future. Oh, Jack Vance, of course. A much further in the future. It's certainly melancholic, but the planet's recovering, and the sun's red and bloated, but it still works. It's not the Mad Max Road Warrior thing, and it's not the the Matrix thing where the sun never breaks through the clouds and everybody's running around in gas masks and it's very dark. And that was just my choice. It's a much sunnier post-apocalypse.
You can even kind of tell that from the cover because of the colours. I know it's kind of similar to the old Gamma World ones, but like how it's bright pink and green and yellow instead of, well, brown, which is the usual apocalypse palette,
Yeah, and I wrote to my personal passion. Oh, there was a lot of Jack Kirby's Commandy Last Boy on Earth in there because that's what I grew up on as a kid. But I wrote to my passions, which is what you have to do in these things. Yeah. Because you need that passion to carry you through all the rough stuff and rough patches and the hard work. Totally. I want to sort of be real clear and lay down the law as a game designer or just a gamer. I'm one of those people who does not ever buy into these edition flame wars, because when I grew up, you were lucky to find a game store within 100 miles to drive and get this stuff, and there were just a couple, 3 companies putting it out. I think my view of today is we just live in this embarrassment of riches, and if your play style is you want to play Pathfinder, that style, that's not my personal cup of tea, but how many thousands and thousands of people enjoy that. And same thing with my little genre I've gotten off into. I'm not saying my way's best, it's just the way I like the game, and since the book already went to second printing, lots of other people must like it too.
Yeah, and it's a good thing that it is going to second printing because you have no idea the amount of people I have to kill to get a copy in the UK, man. It's unbelievably difficult.
These mutants are no teenagers.
This is what I mean about we live in an embarrassment of riches because of a number of intentional design decisions to mirror DCC as closely as possible. That was it for Mutant Crawl Classics, but there's another DCC-based post-apocalyptic system by Reed Fleabo called America.
Yeah, I've got that one.
And basically, Reed and I had the same idea at the same time. He went a fanzine path. I pitched to Joseph and got in. But his stuff is wonderful, and it's slightly different flavored, where I'm tied to all that fancy Appendix N literature and Commandy comics in my head. Reed's stuff is much wilder and goofier and maybe closely matches Thundar the Barbarian with his version of different classes. And as a player, I would go get both and open it up to my players.
Well, they're actually extremely compatible as well. Obviously, technology exists in Mutant Crawl Classics, but you can't play as a technology. You can't be a robot or a sentient microwave because the game is all about discovering those things, I guess. But if you wanted to add that into your game, you could use the American Survival Guide and put in one of those robots.
Yeah, and that's great, and it's more power to you. The charm of that genre fiction that started in pulp magazines long before any of us were born and evolved into the paperbacks that were coming out in the 60s and 70s and 50s that the generation before me read, is that was before there were any rules. So I mean, if you go back far enough, the terms fantasy and science fiction don't exist. They were just doing whatever they please. Bryce Burroughs mixes up, planet romance with ray guns with fantasy elements. And I think that that's what's mislabeled today as Gonzo. The game is Gonzo. What they're really trying to say and don't have the words for it is it's pulpy.
Yeah.
An even better word would be baroque. I mean, the reason we didn't get Lord of the Rings movies until the 21st century is because they didn't have the technology to throw that all up on screen. And the old fiction is full of that stuff.
Yeah, and this game features quite heavily these old artifacts that we've mentioned so far. And one of the things I really, really enjoyed about it was, how all of this technology can have a kind of a personality, because obviously this technology shows up all the time in Mutant Crawl Classics, right? So the fact that a lot of them are sentient and also have these complication modifiers and things like this, is that something that you did kind of to mitigate the amount that they used by players?
Just so. That was an intentional design decision to balance it out because, as you say, in Dungeon Crawl Classics, the landscape is not littered with magic items to go find, like in some versions of D&D. And that being one of the main points of a post-apocalyptic game, to go out and find the stuff and stack up the power so you can strengthen your village. I had to balance that out. So I did it two ways with the AIs that a GM could put into any instrument. So it's now a talking sword equivalent. You've got to have a discussion sometimes about what the sword or the mazer rifle is going to do, and that the whole thing generally hinges on power cells. That's instead of gold, silver, and gems in MCC, you're looking for power cells, because in a campaign you will run through those pretty quick.
You're in big trouble if you ain't got many power cells. And additionally, even if you find the most mundane of technology in such a kind of savage world as this, players will find a use for it too. Even a toaster.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best thing. I have been trying to build out Mutant Crawl Classics with some books that I'm publishing just myself. I just did a Kickstarter for a small book called Check This Artifact, and it's just a little 50-page, 60-page book full of more artifacts, because that book could only have so much in it before it turned into doorstop. Basically, was the basic problem. And there is armor and weapons and cool stuff to kill monsters in the new book. Sure, there is, but there's also super duper 30th century kinetic silly putty things that are just fun and goofy to do in a game 1 minute, and then a smart player has figured out how to use it to break an adventure, which I adore.
Yeah, same here. I absolutely love it, because the players always love that when they've got a gadget that seems to have one purpose and they'll use it for something completely different.
I game with a lot of 20-somethings and 30-somethings, and they tease me and make fun of me because it doesn't matter what fantasy game we're playing. I don't care how many spells you give me. I'm not going into that dungeon without my entire list if I can get it. The 10-foot pole, the rope. This is 40 years of gaming. I've never used the Wolf's Bane once, but I'm going in with it because the first time I don't, I'll need it for something.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been playing the Cyber Sprawl Classics mod for DCC recently, and the players actually found that they felt like a little bit hamstringed because they don't automatically go out and buy a rope, because you wouldn't in a cyberpunk universe,
Oh yeah, they need to go find their carbon nanofilament cord or something.
Now bear my Arctic Blast.
I'm just glad you guys are digging it. I'm appreciative. Anybody that buys, my silly game and plays it. I came fresh from North Texas Con down in Dallas last weekend, and I will confide an emotional state I had preparing for that convention. I'm working on my new superhero game, and I really need to play test that so I can get the bastard done, right? And this is the first convention in 6 or 7 years. I'm packing my game bag, and I'm not packing any MCC stuff or any weird dice in it. And I had a sad over that. But the reason I can do that is because when I get to the convention, there are plenty of other cats running MCC and playing MCC and having a good time, and I draw enormous satisfaction from that.
Yeah, that must be amazing. I mean, I haven't written an awful lot of stuff, but the very few times I get people saying to me, "I played your game," it makes it all worth it. But this must have taken you a hell of a long time to write, because it is gigantic.
I'm not a speedy writer, as opposed to my good friend Michael Curtis. That son of a bitch can bang out 5,000 or 7,000 words in a day. And is a better writer than me, or a better wordsmith than me anyway. But so it took time, and for comparison and contrast, Mutant Car Classics was really, I mean, I brought my own creative ideas to it, certainly, but the job was pretty simple. Just Venn diagram Dungeon Crawl Classics and Gamma World, and give it a lot of heart and passion, and write the game you always wanted to play. Okay, that's one task. This superhero game I'm working on now, I had the genius idea of, well, if I'm going to write the superhero game I always want to play and run, I need a whole new non-D20 game engine, and built it and have play tested it, and the game engine works great. But now I've got to build a transmission, a frame, brakes, tires.
I'm not sure if Gamma World had patron AIs in it originally, but I'm guessing no.
Not as such, but even in that very first edition, there were the think tanks and the as adversaries, the big cybernetic networks and things like that. There weren't patron AIs. That's me borrowing equal parts from Arthur C. Clarke and Jack Vance. In the Jack Vance Dying Earth books, it's the idea that the science has become so lost that it's regarded as magic. And of course, Arthur C. Clarke, any sufficiently advanced technology will appear as magic. So that's just me dividing the difference and giving a system of patrons and deities to Mutant Crawl Classics, just like Dungeon Crawl Classics has.
Yeah, and so they can grant shamans I'm doing quotes with my fingers. I know you can't see it, listener, but it's like magic, right? But they're actually wetware programs using their thoughts and brains. They can alter physics, essentially.
Right. I put wild stuff into the game because it's the bane of every science fiction writer is how do you stay ahead of it when we already live in the Jetsons world? The only thing we don't have are the flying cars, and that's because that's a dumb idea to give a flying object to a human being to crash into stuff.
Look, I want my flying car, all right. But these,
I grew up on the original Star Trek, and we had those flip phones 20 years ago now. So writing science fiction now, you've got to get crazy and be up on your real science, So you can have a computer, a patron AI that's doesn't even exist on the physical plane. Its memory and programs are in shunted quantum networks that are stored in parallel universes.
And there's my favorite one of all is Mangala, who he looks like Galactus from the Marvel vs. Capcom video games.
He was basically a Mars military outpost AI that was on guard, watching for any traffic coming in from outside the solar system.
Yeah, and guarding against aliens, black holes, that type of thing. He's the coolest one, in my opinion. I like the fact that he can give you a suit of mechanical armor that transforms, or a beam sword.
Let's just talk about that specific guy for a second, and I'll give you Jim's system for how artists and writers create things, because I adore the Picasso saying that good artists borrow, great artists steal, that Steve Jobs co-opted later at Apple. What that means to me is that, Shakespeare's there's only 12 plots thing, in terms of are there truly original ideas? Well, maybe, Edgar Allan Poe and Shakespeare and Da Vinci came up with it, but most of us just take whatever our personal well of experience is, the things we've read and been exposed to, and figure out new ways to take it apart and jigsaw it together into something cool. So Mangala is, here's the diagram of Mangala. He's I need a patron AI and I need a military one. So mythologically, I start researching real world gods and land on I'm going to slip and not remember the name, but the Hindu god of war, to whom he bears a resemblance to. And I only thought of that because of the Roger Zalansky book Lord of Light, in which, oddly enough, it's a story about a generational starship like Metamorphosis Alpha that successfully made it to a planet, settled it, and then the settlers rebelled, and the crew decided to drop the hammer on them and knock them back to the Dark Ages and rule the planet for them by assuming the identities of the Hindu gods.
That's totally awesome.
So, and that oddly enough, Jack Kirby drew for a movie that never happened that was used by the CIA later as a cover to get hostages out of Iran, and that was the movie Argo was based on all that. So there's just this crazy thing. And then Stefan Pogue, who is one of the Goodman artists I adore, his exact art direction for that was he's got this many arms, he's got Hindu armor, and Jack Kirby him up as much as you can. That's
awesome. Yeah, the artwork in this book is incredible. And you had Doug Kovacs working on it. I couldn't help but notice at the front it said that you were responsible for some of the art as well?
Only one piece I slipped in just because we were shy on time and I already had the guy drawn. Yeah, I've got one of the AI patron gods that's sort of an homage to Agent Smith in The Matrix. That's me.
You kind of have this, it hits all the tropes and it has the things you kind of expect and a bit more. And I love like the gadget descriptions, reading through all of them is so entertaining and fun. You get the sonic spanner. As I understand, you're a Doctor Who fan, right?
Well, 1979 was one of the golden years in my life because it's the same year I discovered Dungeons and Dragons. Our local TV station started running Tom Baker Doctor Who episodes. And so I found out about Doctor Who. I was like, wait a minute, I've seen this movie, but the movie was really lame. This is smart. I like this. I do want to go back and talk about the art for just a second because that's half of the value of the book. I mean, I'm prejudiced because I'm a writer and an artist myself, but the art job and the art crew that are in that, and if I start rattling off names, I'll miss somebody that I love. But I mean, Doug Kovacs, Stefan Pogue, Bradley McDivitt, who's not a regular Goodman Games artist, I brought in. Oh, this will be interesting. I brought in Barry James, who's a UK artist that I stumbled upon before I'd sold the game to Joseph. Barry helped me sell the game to Joseph. We just so have I don't know how we first got in touch, but he was a UK artist who was at that time, this is years ago, working on his master's thesis, and basically what he needed were text to support illustrations he'd do for his master's thesis, and I'm trying to put together a playtest version of MCC, and I need art, and so we just did a trade, and then I got him to come. I got him in to do a few illustrations in the published book. He's off being a fancy boy now. He makes good money doing very high end stuff, but that was when he was just working on his master's thesis.
Yeah, I mean, but like you say, it's actually a huge selling point when a book has art as good as this. It's part of the reason, actually, I got into DCC in the first place, which makes me very shallow, but I don't care.
Well, this is Jim's publishing theory. The cover art sells the book. The content sells the next book.
Yes.
And that Doug Kovacs cover is gold.
Oh, man, it is amazing. And, trying to pitch it to your game group as well. And you go, hey, look, this is what we're going to be playing. And if it's just, imagine if you just show them a white book with text on it, they'd be like...
Well, I don't want to bang on Wizards of the Coast, but when the 5th edition books came out, and I'm looking at the list, there's like 20 artists per book, and it's clear to me as an artist that they've been art directed into a kind of a house style. And, within those parameters, it's beautiful and it looks great, but I prefer the more Baroque approach where they're pronounced different styles of artists and maybe that's just what I imprinted on with the original D&D books, where I'm flipping through the book looking for the Jeff Dees and the Errol Otis illustrations because those are the ones I really like.
So, you finally arrived. What the hell are you wearing?
It's my ass-kicking outfit, bitch!
Do you want to plug your superheroes game, or is it too early?
It's too early. I mean, I've been playtesting at conventions, and I don't want to create questions to answers. I only have questions to things I only have partial answers for.
Fair enough. So, is there anything else you got going on at the moment that you'd like to plug?
Well, among your listeners that are not in the United States who like Mutant Crawl Classics and are into the digital version of things on their iPads and tablets, I just had a successful Kickstarter for a book full of artifacts that are for, quote marks, NED 20 based post-apocalyptic game, but because I wrote them, the fit and finish would go into MCC fine. It's called Check This Artifact, and you can get it on RPG in PDF form. I am selling print copies, but unfortunately, I'm not set up for international. The nightmare that is international shipping.
Yeah.
And there'll be a sequel book to that'll be kickstarting sometime this summer. That's just more mutant monsters and races and alliances the players can fight or join.
Hell yes, that sounds like my cup of tea. Listeners, go out and buy that right now, and if you don't, we'll be very angry.
If you like MCC, you'll like Check This Artifact.
Yes,
I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I'm going to go on that then. All right, well, thank you very much for coming on, Jim. I really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime.
I have spells. I'm going to fly.
You don't have enough points. I am the maze controller.
So that was the interview with Womp Jimler. I think that's right. Anyway, now on to review book. You're not going to believe this, listeners. We've managed to get a copy.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I know they're very... Actually, they are hard to come by, to be fair.
Yeah, true.
So, Mutant Cruel Classics, and as MCC, as I'm going to call it from this point onwards, is completely compatible with Dungeon Cruel Classics, the RPG. Similarly to DCC, it's all about discovery, mystery, plunging the depths of undiscovered ruins, and finding interesting/scary stuff. The main difference being that while in DCC the hunt for treasure is like magic items and all of that stuff, in here it's replaced with the discovery of lost super science gadgets among radiated wastelands and jungles. As a fantasy future game, obviously you'll still be exploring ruins, but it's more the ruins of ancient technologically advanced cultures. So you might go into an office building, old office building.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, like a sewer or something like this.
An old McDonald's.
An old McDonald's, and you find some super science gadgets in there.
Or a mutated burger.
You know what, that would work.
Yeah.
The book is set in a world called Terra AD. It's a primitive world which is racked by the side effects of an ancient holocaust.
Oh god, yeah.
And this holocaust is known as the Great Disaster. And Terra AD means Terra, the world's name, after disaster.
Ooh, clever.
Since the Great Disaster, however, the world is repopulated and regrown into a tropical wilderness. The people that managed to survive in Terra AD are all here because of natural selection. They are those people that have superior or malleable genes, and those are the ones that have flourished, basically.
Yeah, and it's hot as hell in Terra AD, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a bloody greenhouse rainforest type
That's
atmosphere.
why it's like so overgrown.
Yeah.
Strangely, though, unlike our world, where humans were considered to be the dominant race and the most intelligent, the world of MCC is dominated by loads of intelligent life forms. Like many plants and animals now have like a basic understanding of reasoning, walk upright like humans, and similarly can use tools and communicate in a more sophisticated manner. And these races are known as Plantians and Manimals.
Manimals, I love that word.
It's such a good word. Yeah, and their genes basically change rapidly to fit their environment. The humans that descended from the humans that we know and love, I do love them.
Do you?
Yeah, oh, they're great.
Oh, them humans, I like them.
They have conversely descended into savagery.
Yeah.
There are two types found in Terra AD, pure strain humans and mutants. Those are basically the ones that came from us, essentially. The humans didn't survive due to ever-changing genetics, though they are here, and simply because over many years their genome evolved over time the normal way, and eventually became inured to radiation and other mutagenic environmental effects. But most denizens of Terra AD believe in a long-dead race of people known as the Ancient Ones. This technologically advanced race made gadgets and machines from such advanced materials that they managed to survive the Great Disaster and also the ravages of time. So that's essentially kind of the explanation for why all this shit is about.
The Great Disaster.
Apocalypse happened, plants can walk.
Yeah.
And now go find a burger.
Go find a mutated burger or some
coffee
kind
machine.
Of some kind of old technology.
You know, it's funny. There is something like that in the book.
What, the burger?
No, the coffee machine.
Oh, a coffee machine? I didn't see that.
Yeah,
really?
you could befriend a toaster if it had an AI in it.
Oh yeah, I did see that bit.
But Jim Wampler, the guy that made this, he made sure that the question as to what the Great Disaster actually is is never answered.
Genius.
So you don't know. It could have been magic. It could have been a bomb. It could have been
a comet. It could have been bloody disease. Could have been anything.
And people around the world are going to have different theories as to what it is, which actually makes it cool. And obviously, MCC is about discovery, mysterious lands, etc. And the book says that players should never be certain as to where it's taking place. Is it an alien planet? Is it Earth? Is it the long destroyed remnants of a fantasy universe?
Details. Doesn't matter.
Yes, exactly. Get out of here.
Get out of here with that. No, but I like it. It keeps it ambiguous and
it gives the players something to discover.
Exactly, and that's it. Exactly that. Don't what is it? Don't
shoot.
Show, don't tell. So that's exactly the whole thing about it, isn't it?
I was going to say don't shoot the messenger.
All that, yeah.
All that's a good
don't
one.
do it. Don't do that either.
That concludes the advice corner.
Yeah.
So let's have a look at making characters in MCC, or from now on I'm going to call it Let's have a look at what your options are. We already know about Plantians and Manimals, pure strain humans and mutants, but what can they actually do, and how is this character built? Step 1, get some clay. Step 2, throw that clay out the window, because we're saying RPG.
Yeah, what are you talking about? This ain't art class.
Yes, what are you doing? Anyway, you roll ability scores, 3d6 in order, add ability modifiers, and then roll for beginning equipment and your profession. Now, let's get into that, because in MCC RPG, similarly to DCC, you start at level 0, usually finding your character of choice via a funnel, which in this, I think it's called the Rite of Passage.
Okay.
And basically, a bunch of characters, you get like a stack of 4 characters, and you run through an incredibly deadly dungeon. And the one you have left at the end, you have a connection with, and that's the one you have.
That's your guy, that's your dude, yeah,
or do that's the Rite of Passage or the funnel. And once when you start at level 0, like you get an occupation, right? And in DCC, there's absolutely loads. You can be anything from a gong farmer, which I am reliably informed means shit farmer, to a cheesemaker, to a blacksmith, whatever.
Yeah.
But in this, there are two occupations to start with. It's either hunter or gatherer. That's it. Mm-hmm. And the hunter starts with a spear, gatherer with a sack. Take that. I'm going to use my sack on you.
I hit him with my sack.
It's time for the sack of doom. Yeah, but sack, you put rocks in it.
That's true.
That's basically a spear.
That's an angry sack.
That's an angry sack.
Yeah.
Watch out for my angry sack. But then, you after you've picked one of these occupations, you roll for a birth sign, and this determines your character's lucky roll. So to give an example of this, the character might start with the birth sign Ragnarok, meaning they get to use their luck bonus on all melee attack rolls.
Ooh, nifty.
There's 30 of these, ranging from signs that affect your armor class to damage with mutations.
Wicked.
And once you've rolled your sign, you roll twice on a D100 for additional beginning equipment. You can get things like blowguns to a bone necklace to some beef jerky.
Sweet.
My favourite, however, is if you get on a 98 to a 100, you get a telepathic rat.
That's what everybody needs. Telepathic rat.
Like, most of the gear is like really mundane, and then right at the end, telepathic rat.
So sick. Yeah, go on, off you go.
Yeah, and then it would. The thing is, if it read people's minds, how would you understand it?
What, the rat?
Yeah.
If it was telling, I reckon it's more of a case of you can just command the rat and it does what you ask it to do. I don't know if it can converse.
You know, that's probably right, yeah.
Yeah. Comes back and it's doing all these little hand signals. I just can't understand it.
And like, what's that? Billy's fallen down the well.
Oh, God.
Once equipment is done, you roll your genotype.
Yes.
This at level 0 determines what race you are, but you only gain the bonuses of this race and its abilities when you reach level 1, so don't try it. You cheating scum. Last things to determine are your appearance and your alignment. The appearance tables only affect Manimals, Plantians and Mutants. For pure strain humans, guess what? You look like a human. But, to reflect their mutated genome, all other races roll on these tables. To give examples, you might be a mutant with a beak instead of a mouth, or you may have a serpentine form, so you're a big slithering monstrosity.
Yeah.
Manimals, who are humanoid animals, have to roll for their animal subtype on the appearance thing. So you might be a fox, a gorilla, a cow.
Feline, canine, amphibia, insecta.
Yeah, and in all of those, it's got like subcategories as well, so you can actually be a cow.
Yeah.
See, the thing is, when we played Mutant Gen Lab Alpha, all the animals in that you can be are the cool ones.
Yeah, you could be all sorts of this. You could be a fly.
Yeah.
Grasshopper, beetle, buffalo, antelope, brown bear, wolf.
Being a fly would be handy. I wonder if you are at like a minuscule size.
Just this tiny little fly flying around with a party.
Nobody can hear what you're saying, and But for infiltration reasons, well good.
Amazing. Yeah, but
it's just that when you get in there, you can't do anything.
Or you meet a new person, like, can someone swat that fly? No, it's that fly.
Well, I suppose you would have legs. Is it fly-sized body with giant human legs coming out of it?
I don't know. Mate, probably. To be fair, looking at the pictures...
Well, that's my house rule. If you roll fly...
You're tiny.
You've got a tiny body, but you've got human-sized arms and legs.
That would look so grim. Just this
because you wouldn't even see the fly bit.
You just see floating arms and legs. Oh man, that's creepy.
Yeah. So Plantians have to do the same with their appearance tables, and they can be anything from a shrub to a mushroom to an apple tree.
Oh man, yeah, everything. Beaver tail.
I don't even know what that is. Sounds good.
You could be green moss.
yeah. That's what's so awesome about it.
That's wicked.
The Plantians, we'll get into them later because they're so fucking cool.
Yeah.
But lastly, you pick an alignment. And why am I mentioning this even? Because they're quite different. In MCC, they're called archaic alignments. And they more represent organisations and a belief system than a typical alignment, right? So each character is likely to believe one of these teachings. And most characters, for example, will start as the clan of Cog. And these people respect other intelligent life forms and seek to work together to survive. They often go out and try to recruit new people too. There's another called the Curators who worship ancient technology. And there's another called the Children of the Glow who believe that radiation is the personification of fate. So you can see how being in one of those belief systems results in your character being shaped and having an alignment. I'm doing quotes with my fingers, but it's not a traditional alignment.
No, but it still gives it kind of a framework for your character, doesn't it?
Exactly. Cool. And I can't remember how many there are, but I think there might be 9. I can't remember, but anyway, let's get into the classes themselves in a bit more depth. Much like many fantasy OSR type games, race is class as well. So obviously Plantian, Manimal, they're their own class. So starting with the human classes, we have the Sentinel. And these are humans that are extremely strong and, as the book puts it, favour the way of the warrior. If you like a traditional warrior, this is basically
the one. Sentinel, yeah.
Yeah, they get 1d12 hit points at each level, and they're good at understanding artefacts and artefact weapons and armour. But we'll get into artefacts later. Next up, there's Shamans. If you haven't guessed, these are magic users. And at level 1, they get an AI patron, granting them access to wetware programs. And wetware is this game's version of spells. They're essentially computer programs implanted into a shaman's head that allow them to change the laws of physics. And if that doesn't sell you,
I don't know what will. You might as well give up now, mate. Exactly. Then you're a manimal.
You're an absolute manimal. So, having a patron, an AI patron, also grants the shaman the ability to invoke this AI and, get its help, basically.
Yeah.
And how often and to what degree depends on your bond with the AI, and this is rolled using a table. Next, there's the healer, and if you give you 5 points if you can guess what they do.
Warrior?
No. They like killing.
That's the one. Yeah.
No, they heal with one hand, kill with the other.
Yeah.
But these guys are more attuned to medical artifacts. So if you find an old medical machine, they'll get a bonus for using it. In addition to this, they have a healing ability, obviously, because they're healers, using a tradition which was passed down by word of mouth. They can use healing techniques 2 times a day per level and heal people for a certain number of hit points.
Yeah.
This is an invaluable fucking thing. But yeah, at level 1, they can heal 1d3 hit points twice a day. At level 2, they can heal 1d4 hit points 4 times a day, and so on. But the last of the human classes is the Rover. You play a sentient 4x4 made by Land Rover. That is a joke. It's a funny joke that I've written in there. The Rover is essentially your specialist thief rogue class. Yeah. They're adept at circumventing the security of the Ancient Ones and sneaking around these ancient systems. As such, they have a bonus to these activities, +1 at level 1, rising up to a +8 at level 5. Ooh. There are a few class features, however, that all pure strain humans get. So in DCC and MCC, you can burn luck. Essentially, you drain your luck stat to add it onto rolls. And this is difficult to get back. And in con games, people always burn it to hell on the last boss. Yeah. Well, in MCC, all human classes receive the feature Darwinian Luck. They regenerate spent luck at a rate of 1 per 24 hours, except rovers who regenerate 2.
Wow.
Yeah, and additionally, AI systems are more likely to recognise pure strain humans as ancient ones, which can be handy for a multitude of reasons. But essentially, when you meet an AI, you need to roll to see if it recognises you as a person worth talking to. and this is often the first stepping stone on doing anything with an AI, from getting information about an artifact to mastering the AI and harnessing its power. So yeah, bloody handy.
That is wicked.
They've actually made the human classes a bit more exciting, I think.
That's true, yeah, because most games, it's like humans probably not as exciting as the other classes.
Yeah, they're just guys.
It's just human.
Well, I don't want to play a guy, but then the actual thing they can do and the usefulness of all of these classes is awesome.
That's really cool. So this ancient AI might be like, and see it as it's one of its own creators.
Yeah, exactly. And the only one that's like maybe slightly mundane is the Sentinel. But you got to have one in there. A lot of people like to play it, and especially in a game where a lot of barbaric tribes and things exist. Being a meathead who goes around swinging a sword, could be fun.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, the other classes, we got mutants. Depending on how your mutant turns out, they can either be the luckiest guy in the world or the most unlucky. You see, upon achieving first level, you receive 1d3 random physical mutations and 1d2 mental ones. But the thing is, you could roll the worst ones ever or the good ones, but physical ones include claws, holographic skin, new body parts, or wings. And the funny thing about this is that when you roll on these tables to determine what mutations you have, there are two types basically. You've got active ones and passive ones, and then you've got obviously mental ones and physical ones. Mental include like dual brain, mind control, illusion generation, things like this, right? And when the passive ones, the ones that you just get, for example, wings, you roll once to determine the effectiveness of them. So you might have a pair of wings on your back that don't do anything. And so this is the thing with the mutant. You can get really unlucky and you can have all of this shit, like you grow an extra arm and you're like, sweet, what does that do? Oh, it doesn't actually work.
Yeah, sorry, mate.
So that's what I find that...
It's just a diminished little limb hanging off of you.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, it doesn't do anything.
Can't even slap.
But that's what I like about this, because it's very old school. In that regard,
keeps it real as well a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you might just get a mutant that is a useless hunk of shit, but that's Pop's kind of.
You're in a mutated, weird future. There's going to be good stuff and there's going to be shit stuff.
And you know what? It might actually be. It might actually be fun to try and overcome adversity, and it's like, oh, it's that's dangly arm Dave.
Oh, what's he do? Dangle.
His third arm don't even work, mate.
And over years, he starts going to the gym and straightening it out.
Yeah. So, yeah, you could come up with a character with just a bunch of erroneous limbs. And that, to me, that's awesome.
Yeah, that is cool.
Now, it's worth noting that exposure to high levels of radiation can result in either losing or gaining a mutation. This goes only for non-human classes. It's called rad burn.
Rad, and that's not really good burn, like a really good put down.
Oh, sweet burn!
Oh, rad burn!
Yeah, if a mutant loses all of their mutations for any reason, right? They just, let's say for example, they keep getting bad rad burn, and then all their mutations get lost. They evolve into a pure strain human, but they have to be at first level. Right. So you could be level 15, suddenly you jump into a radiated pool, and all your mutations go, your first level.
Stinker.
In honesty, it would be rare for that to happen, but it can.
But it's possible, yeah.
Yeah. And the last thing on mutants is that they get the class feature Mutant Horror. Essentially, because they're so scary, they get an initiative bonus in combat. It's like everyone else is like taking a step back, go, whoa,
look at this dude. He's got 4 eyes.
Yeah, next up there's the Manimal. As I mentioned before, these are animal people. They're seen as the descendants of creatures from before the Great Disaster. They're all bipedal, able to talk, which is handy. And so, like the mutant, they also gain mutations upon starting. However, they get less. And they have a natural attack, either a bite or a claw.
Classic.
Even if you're a cow.
You ever been bit by a cow?
Oh, mate, a cow bite.
Nasty, mate.
Nasty. Especially when you get an angry cow.
You're in trouble.
You're getting bit.
Yeah.
Manimals also get a gang-up bonus when attacking the same target as a pack with other manimals.
That's cool.
So you get a +1 to your attack for every adjacent...
Sweet. Manimal.
Yeah, Manimal, yeah.
So if you've got so if your party's like 3 Manimals, you've got a lovely little advantage there.
It's actually a good reason to play an all-Manimal crew.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. What's next? And lastly, we got the old Plantians.
Yes, the Plantians. These guys are plant people, They gain mutations at first level too, and also have a natural attack, but theirs is a spine or thorn missile attack.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so they just... yeah, well
nuts.
good.
This
They
is
also
cool.
have the ability fragrance pheromones, which means people are more likely to treat them in a favourable manner. This is due to the releasing of spores or gases. So you just constantly go around spraying everyone like a fucking Febreze.
You drop a fart.
Yeah,
And everyone's like, hello.
Wow, you know what I'm starting to like the cut of your jib. Lastly, simply by standing in a forest area, Plantians get a 50% chance to hide, and this goes up by 5% more every level.
Wicked.
So yeah, you could just stand still and
Become
then suddenly
invisible.
well, that's just a pit of moss.
Yeah.
I paid no regard.
And no, it's me. Yeah. That's sick.
But next up, we'll talk about some mutations. Obviously, the game's called Mutant Cruel Classics. It's got mutations.
Oh boy.
Surprising nobody. But as I mentioned, there are passive mutations, and the way these work is when you gain the mutation by rolling randomly, you roll on the table for that mutation, and the result is how this particular mutation manifests. As an example, you've got carapace, so you have a protective shell or hide. By rolling a 12 or a 13 on the table, your AC increases by 2, but if you get a 20 to 23, you get a +5 increase to AC, permanent obviously, and a +2 to fortitude saves, but your speed is reduced by 5 feet. So that's the thing, they can vary, and obviously you can lose the mutation as well, but the point is that to start out, that's what you got, as long as you can keep it.
And the neat stuff also comes with a price by the looks of it, so it reduces your movement, but
yeah, because you're a big heavy armoured fuck, sense, you're just a giant crab.
You got an iron butt.
Yeah, totally. If you roll a 1, however, on any of these tables, you replace it with the mutation with a defect, which I'll get to shortly. But then there's active mutations. These are like powers that can be used at will. For example, gas generation, where you exude volatile gases. There's a lot of that talk in this episode.
In this, yeah.
The lowest successful result is a puff of gas that can blind opponents, whereas the highest, you release an explosive cloud of radioactive steam in a 50-foot diameter. You're unaffected, but everyone else in the cloud has to save against the mutation or take 10d6 heat damage, and everyone affected gets 1 random mutation or defect.
Ouch. That's sick. So it's like, is it similar to spells in DCC then? Depending on how well you roll determines how good the outcome is.
That's exactly it, yeah. So it's basically the same thing. So it means that a lot of other classes, they can now use all these wicked powers, too. It's not just, ain't just the wizards and
I like that, yeah. But there's also mental mutations, remember?
Oh, yeah, the mental mutations, there's a good example is there's one where you can vibrate molecules or change the way they vibrate to make stuff cold. And this can be just giving someone a chill to freezing them in a big cube.
Wow, that's wicked.
So, yeah, that's a mental one. And there's like mind control, mind reading, that type of thing.
Crazy. What about the defects, though?
Defects is a good one. Death pretense. Much like a fainting goat, whenever the mutant is shocked or surprised, you reflexively feign death. So this could just be anything, just a scary monster comes out and you just go, boom. Yeah,
just hit drop on the floor.
So yeah, that's what's so cool about the defects. There's absolutely loads. So on a 2 or a 4 on this defect, you can fall into a coma for 1d10 rounds.
Oh, that's good when you're in the middle of a dungeon.
There's one called asymmetrical body, where one half of your body can be tiny or massive. So the image in the book is like this guy's got one massive arm and one massive leg. It's so nuts, man. There's things like multiple personalities, limb loss, and of course stumble bum.
Oh, that one, yeah.
Where the mutated party becomes a flailing lunatic, decreasing agility, and in some cases armor class 2.
Oh wow.
So that's a stumble bum.
Yep.
Yeah, the defects are cool, man. Like, and you can get them, just by rolling badly, even just using one of your mutations, your own mutation.
Yep.
And then suddenly you roll a 1.
Stumble bum.
There's also mega mutations.
Ah, yeah.
But I'm unsure as to at what point you gain these or where they're given. Like,
right.
I couldn't. Either I missed that part of the book, but they're just better mutations, and I'm not sure when you're supposed to get them.
How you can get at them.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, but anyway, these range from exploding fingers to metallic skin to phase shift, where you can pass through solid matter.
That's cool.
The mega mental mutations are amazing too. I like this because mental isn't used in the same way over in the States as it is here. Because when it says mega mental mutation, man,
sick, bro.
That's mega mental.
Yeah, that sounds like a DJ's line from like the late 90s.
Yeah, exactly. One of my favourite mega mental mutations is Time Lash, where you can manipulate the timeline of an enemy, so you can cause them to age rapidly. On a roll of a 16 to 19, they age 24 hours and just become tired and hungry. And this gives them like a -2 to all actions.
That's brilliant.
But there's other ones where you can make them age 10 years. Like if you get a higher result, it's like boom.
But you're like playing like whatever the version of poker is in this apocalyptic future. Like all of a sudden you just start making them get older, so like their eyesight starts going and stuff.
Yeah, they get dementia, and they're like, "What are we doing?
Just you're losing. Oh, all right then.
All in, is it?
All in. All right then." That's great.
Yeah. So as you can see, the mutations play a big role in Mutant Crawl Classics. But is the game actually good to play? Well, I'll give that a yes.
Yeah,
Sorry to spoil the next segment,
it is.
But it is. It uses the DCC system. So for those that don't know, we'll go through a little bit of the rules. And we're big fans of DCC, so obviously the game's play good. But the dice chain is a big deal in these games. The DCC MCC line of products require you to have a set of weird dice or an app that allows you to use those.
Exactly.
So things like D3, D7, D5, and in addition to bonuses, like I'll give you a +2 on that, you'll often move one step up the dice chain. So let's say, for example, you have a significant advantage in combat. The DM might go, roll a D24 instead of a D20 for this attack. And these extra dice mean that the jump between the dice it isn't wildly out of balance, and so instead it works like a variable bonus.
It's wicked.
Skills, they work thusly. If your starting occupation and class deems that you would be skilled in certain areas, you roll a D20 and add the correct bonus from your attributes. If not, roll a D10 instead. In DCC, for example, a farmer checking soil for some reason to take a D20, but if you're a cheesemonger or blacksmith checking the soil, you'd get a D10.
Yeah, you're getting a 10.
There are no formal skills as such, just a background, so that's how it works. You just use things like agility for climbing certain surfaces, things like this. Yeah. But the thing is, in MCC, nothing's really changed, except for obviously there are far fewer starting jobs. So I don't know what you do now.
What in MCC?
Because in DCC it was kind of like you would go, I'm a gong farmer. I know all about picking up shit, and you'd have certain skills based on that. But in this, there's only hunter gatherer.
Oh yeah.
So
you're either really good at killing stuff, or you're really good at collecting stuff.
Yeah, but if you're going to use a skill, you still you use agility for legging it, luck for listening, or strength and agility for climbing, depending on the surface. And of course, you're rolling these against a difficulty rating, 5 being easy, 10 medium, and 15 being difficult, and so on. I won't go too much to in-depth on the combat, but suffice to say, it's easy.
Yeah.
You roll initiative, determine your place in the combat, and try to hit people by beating their AC, standard stuff.
Exactly.
However, one thing that can make combat cinematic, swingy, and fun are the crits and fumbles tables. These are fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Each character has a crit die depending on their level, so it might be a D10 to start and rise up as you gain XP. When you score a crit, you roll this crit die on a crit table associated with your class. And I don't know how many more times I'm going to have to say crit. For example, on the Rover/Mutant/Manimal crit table, a roll of a 10 is a masterful strike, inflicting an extra 2d6 damage.
Ooh, tasty.
Or on a 6, your opponent is dazed by the attack. They take the full damage and his speed and actions are reduced by half. You can blind opponents with blood, get them in the eye, all sorts of stuff.
Yep.
And that's what makes it really cool, because a lot of times when you score a crit in another game, you'll be asked to narrate it, or the DM will narrate what happens.
Yeah.
But in this, you've got these cool fucking tables, and combat always goes in directions you're not expecting.
Absolutely,
especially when you get the one where somebody gets, if on the fumble table, which is when you roll a 1, you can get ones where you get tangled up in your own armour.
Oh mate,
and just either picturing that on the people and you're trying to get your own hand, or you can hit yourself in the face, fall over, become a laughing stock.
And it's amazing when an enemy gets a fumble as well.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone at the table is like, yes, because it's going to have some crazy effect. Yeah. It's not just like, here's a crit, fail, they fail.
No,
it's like this time you're going down, or
cuts his own arm off.
We had in our actual play of DCC where the guy, it said your attack blinds you temporarily, and he was attacking with a pen, so all the ink went in his eyes.
Ink went in his eye. Yeah. I'm blind.
I've been blind. Let's bring it down for a minute. Let's talk about death.
Oh.
When you reach 0 HP, you die, but you may be saved. You have an amount of rounds equal to your level to save a person that has reached 0 HP. This is called bleeding out. They have to be administered some kind of healing. This can be a heal check or a heal ability from someone playing the healer class. But a character saved in this manner suffers a terrible scar and permanent loss of stamina. Now, there is one more way of saving a downed friend called recovering the body.
Oh, yeah.
If a character gets to the dead body of an ally within an hour of them falling, the dead character makes a luck check when his body is turned over. If they succeed by rolling under their current luck score, well, it turns out they weren't dead, just unconscious or incapacitated in some way. It's a rule I don't actually use, and I've been given some flack for that in the past.
Have we not used recover the body in the game?
We used it once.
I was going to say, we had
and then
definitely
I
used
stopped
it once.
because I felt it made it too easy.
Bit OP.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if
mate.
it is or not, but if a character is very careful and I've got a 16 for luck, and they need to roll under 16, they'll just keep coming back.
Yeah, that's true.
And to me, 0 HP is death. Or at least somewhere near that.
Well, normally it's like you're down to 0, you need to do a roll, or they're gone.
Yeah, exactly.
Simple as
Because
that.
somebody will get to them, try and heal them, whatever. Yeah, and if you fail, well, that's it, say bye-bye.
Whereas with recover the body, I guess if you've always got that high dice roll, you've got a much higher chance of... You're like the resurrector.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that when it comes down to it, you could do that. Character goes up, makes a healing save, fails, then flips the body. It goes right, no, other way, and then they go.
Oh, he was there. He was alive. Yeah, it's weird. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, characters who survive in this way will take a -4 to all actions for the next hour and also sustain a permanent injury.
Yeah.
This time, however, it's in the form of a permanent stat loss to either strength, agility, or stamina. Now, that's a pretty much simplified version of how to run the game. Obviously, luck rolls, morale, saving throws, all of that shit comes into it too, but there's one golden rule about the DCC, MCC line of products. Rulings, not rules.
Oh, yes.
If the judge or the Mutant Lord... that's not what it's actually called, but that's my custom name.
Yeah, why not?
Rules something a certain way. That's how it plays out. So they might change the rules based on specific situations or make new ones for very specific situations. As such, the actual how to play the game segment is quite short and simple, which makes the game easy to play and learn. But yeah, as I said, if the judge rules it, or the Mutant Lord, then that's it. That's the rule.
It is, yeah.
That's how it is. So yeah, that's what I like about it. The segment on actually playing the game's tiny, and it's more of a guide to how to play the game and how to run it, which is awesome, rather than just having a bunch of specific situations all statted out.
Exactly.
It gives you the tools to do anything.
Anything you want, it makes it really open, doesn't it?
Yeah, with one simple system, awesome. But with that out of the way, the next section of the book covers the AI that you'll meet during play.
Yes.
Ooh. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So these AI vary hugely in how they work and what their purpose is, but one of the main ones being that certain godlike ones can be patrons to a shaman, or indeed any character. In the case of the shaman, this means that they can call on the help of an AI. In any case, when first meeting an AI, you must roll to be recognised as a worthy user. This role is modified by several things, such as being dressed in the clothes of the Ancient Ones, having visible mutations, or maybe modified by the type of AI. So a domestic appliance, like a toaster, that's an automatic +1 because they're not picky. They're not like super smart sentient AIs.
They just want to make toast for you.
Toaster, yeah. So the thing is, you want to hack into that toaster, it's going to be easier.
Unless you don't like toast, then you've got a different situation altogether there.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't like toast?
You imagine if you did this whole quest and the end prize was a toaster, and then you get to the end and like, I no like toast.
Well, you better get the hell out of my dungeon.
The dungeon of the toaster coming soon. Often though, even being recognised by the AI isn't enough. Past that, they might have security clearances, especially on a toaster, man. Those things you've got to lock them down.
Whoa!
Don't want somebody putting sausages in there and starting a fire. Yeah, so they might be locked by a series of questions, a password, a retinal scan, whatever.
Like games from the 90s that were aimed at adults.
Exactly. Yes.
Leisure Suit Larry. Do you remember you had to answer like a really weird question?
Yeah, it would be like, what is the first word on the second line of page 6?
Yeah, and it's and you've got no internet, so it's not like you can check it.
So maybe you walk up to the toaster and it's like, tell me the name from the manual, and you're like, fuck.
Just what goes with toast? Tea? Correct.
Security clearance granted.
Insert into me. Oh God!
You know the funny thing is that thing about the putting sausages in a toaster. Somebody actually did that where I used to work.
Don't say penis.
No,
it was
a real sausage.
Okay, good.
Yeah. He cut them in half and tried to cook them in a toaster.
No,
the fat obviously dripped onto the element, and then it just. It just started a big old fire. Fire brigade got called and shit, man.
It's like putting a fork into a toaster when your toast stuck. It's like, come on, just use a chopstick, man. Anything.
I do it, man. I like to live on the edge. I'll just jam that fork in.
Get in there for no reason. Every day just to see what's going on.
The toaster's like, stop it, you're hurting me. Why? Why was I born? Yeah, the book gives basic stats for most types of AI. You're likely to encounter 4 different types of android, 3 computer AIs, 3 hologram types, and so on.
Holograms are hilarious.
Yeah, and they're basically got hard light holograms as well. And you've got robots too, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about patron AIs. That's why we're really here, right? Yeah. The big, powerful beings. They grant powers to shamans and are the big players in Terra AD. When selecting a patron at level 1 for shamans, they must roll on the patron AI bond table. This, in general, commits them to a lifelong servitude to the AI. Rolling on the patron AI bond table will determine, obviously, how strong your bond with the AI is. So the lowest possible result will allow you to invoke the AI once a week. But the highest result on this table, however, will mean that the AI considers you to be an integral part in achieving its goals, and you can use it 4 times a day with a +2 bonus to the program check, and you get a gift of 2 wetware programs relating to that AI, and you can run these programs in place of patron AI invocation, basically. So what is bloody AI like? Well, the best one is Mangala.
Yeah.
He used to be a space probe agency AI and was tasked with monitoring incoming threats like alien invasion or black holes. And he still has super space age weaponry and is networked to a group of like-minded AI who exist in something called the Matrix of Entropy. He hates anything alien in nature and expects his followers to maintain a suspicion of the unknown and to shoot first, ask questions later. He looks like an ornately armoured man, has 4 arms, red skin, and rides an armoured gigantic horse. Yeah. He appears to characters as a 15-foot tall hologram. Anyway, to bond with him, you must find a pair of Mangala braces. These are I can't even bloody say this, Dura-alloy circuit bands that fuse to the wearer's skin. Oof. When invoked, Mangala will do a number of things, but let me read the result for the lowest possible success on the invoke patron table. Mangala regards your pathetic connection attempt with utter disdain, since it's obvious to him that you need some more backbone with which to marshal your weakling prospects. He grudgingly and temporarily grants the shaman 1d6 of strength. And these points of strength can only be glow burned as well. They don't actually contribute to attack modifiers or strength checks. He just adds strength points so that you can glow burn him. Glow burn is essentially, chopping into your body to make mutations or wetware programs more powerful, which is awesome. But conversely, a higher result on the Mangala table. Mangala! Mangala creates and grants the shaman the use of a microscopic black hole. This miniature dark star appears as a marble-sized hole in the fabric of reality that orbits the shaman's head until commanded to attack. Amazing.
Yeah.
And he's just the coolest. He looks like fucking Galactus.
He's so sick. Yeah, he's got a giant horse.
Oh, he's the best.
It's cool.
Rolling low on wetware program checks or invoke patron checks can sometimes net you a patron taint.
Yeah.
This is often to do with the fact that the patron is annoyed by your poor efforts. So some of the effects are cool, some are bad. For example, Mangala may embed a gem into your head which forces you to act more viciously when threatened. You basically just dart forward. The first time somebody looks at you and you get in a fight with them, you just dart forward and you're like, oh, I'm sorry.
It's the gem.
It's the gem. Yeah, and...
Small metallic spikes.
Yeah, exactly. But he might actually turn your skin red and shiny while increasing your muscle mass as well. So he's just like, puny waste of space.
You need to be a red Hulk.
Yes, I accept none but red Hulks. But as I mentioned before, the shaman will be granted access to certain wetware programs when partnering with the AI. These function exactly like spells, as I said, and they're complex programs embedded in the brain of the user that can alter reality. The first spell gained from Mangala is Plasma Sword, where you're transferred via Transmat Beam, a powerful beam weapon. So it's a lightsaber.
Yeah,
Plasma Sword.
Exactly.
Depending on the role, it can be more or less effective. You might get a Wicked Sword, you might get a shit one. But the third spell that you get from Mangala is Powered Assault Armor. Depending on your role, this can be anything from a form-fitted mesh armor to a multi-mode mecha 16 foot tall. And it can change modes easily too, changing to bipedal legs or tank tracks or become an aircraft.
So sick.
And it's armoured with all sorts of goodies like laser rifles, grenade launchers or a stomping attack. So yeah, he gives you a transformer, basically.
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
incredible.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah.
So 90s, man.
Yeah.
So that's one patron, and there's a good amount of them. They're all brilliant, from Tetraplex, a transcendent extrapolating term research AI, to, I think it's either ME to the power of 10 or me to the power of 10.
Me to the power. I don't know. Yeah, I love that because he's like an old man, isn't he? That projects out a hologram.
Exactly, and yeah, he's known as a mnemonic entity times 10 billion. Sorry, it's raining outside.
It's the end of the world.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that means we'll be in a situation like Mutant Crawl Classics.
I was about to say, is the event coming? I want a good mutation.
I want to be a Plantian.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
We'll round off this main subject though, by looking at some of the artifacts of the ancients.
Yeah.
The game revolves heavily around the acquisition of ancient tech, and the book does not skimp. You've got Daser pistols, you've got phaser pistols, you've got maser pistols, and laser pistols, all on the same page there.
Laser rifle.
Yeah, they all come in rifle form too, and there's all manner of grenades, swords, armours, things like this. But there are so many awesome examples of these. I'm just going to give a couple. Like the force field belt, which grants shields against radiation, gas attacks, and physical damage, or power armor, similar to Fallout, or a fusion torch, which would have been used to cut high density materials, but can now be used to hurt people.
Yeah,
which is awesome. And
Zapper glove's cool. It holds a charge in the glove, and then you can blow people up with it later.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and
for the Doctor Who fans, there's the Sonic Spanner.
Yes, it's in there.
Yeah, they called it the Sonic Spanner for copyright reasons. But yeah, essentially is you can use it on locks and small mechanical devices to vibrate them using the Sonic Spanner. Pretty awesome. They're all really good, and they are proper 90s a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But there are some caveats to using these wicked devices. There's a tech level assigned to each artifact, which categorizes it into a general level of technology. Now, the only reason this is going to be really used is because you might cap using tech level to certain levels.
Okay.
So you might go, oh, that's tech level 6. You can't use it until you're at
you get to level 6.
That's if you want to control the power of the game. You don't have to do that. But there's also complexity modifiers, which are representative of the actual complexity of using the device. The book gives the example of grenades. They're complexity level 1. That's the lowest. So because grenades are easy to figure out, either pull a pin, press a button, and throw it.
Easy to figure out. Whether you can actually walk away from it after you've figured it out. If you
don't figure it out and you just pull the pin out and you go, oh, it does nothing, and you just hold it.
Boom.
Yeah. Goodbye hands.
Yeah.
But in order to understand and use these devices, you must make an artifact check. Now, as I mentioned earlier, pure strain humans get bonuses to this, and this is a D20 plus intelligence plus your class's artifact check bonus minus the complexity modifier of the device.
Yeah.
And that's it. So there are a few more rules for artifacts, but this segment is way too long, so we're going to stop it there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about presentation, yo.
Right.
This is one of the nicest books I've ever seen by a man.
The cover,
Doug
I love
Kovacs.
the colours in the colour of the cover.
The cover's like bright pink and green. It's like the proper, this is a post-apocalypse game that is proper 90s.
Yeah, proper 90s.
And, it obviously came from Gamma World and shit, so all the art really reflects that. It's over the top, it's crazy, it's got really nice black and white inside art, and the inside cover has the whole map of Terra 80, and you get a poster map free with a bloody game stuck in the back.
Laminated poster map.
So good. And like the DCC products, it's laid out perfectly, and every single piece of art, you can stare at it for months if you were a psychopath, but maybe for an hour. Yeah, so spot on with the presentation, really.
It's easy to follow. Like you said, it gets the how to play the game bit out the way nice and quickly, which is a small section, and the rest is just fantastic fluff about artifact, gods, AIs. The wetware section's vast. It's cracking. Yeah, it's all like you said, all black and white and all that kind of. It's OS art style, but obviously it's depicting futuristic shit rather than older shit. But again, even that's kind of got that.
It reminds me of something that I remember from a kid. I think it was one of those old Ian Livingstone Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Yeah.
And it was a post-apocalyptic future exactly like this one. If any listeners can remember
which one it is. Yeah,
tell me. So Mutant Crawl Classics, it's fucking cool. Really decent. Go out and buy it. And
there's loads of adventure modules for it.
There are. I've got one, a Fallen Star for All, where everyone's racing to get to a comet, I think.
What's the one I got you a little while ago when it's an old god that's become a prison?
Oh, that was imprisoned in the God Skull. That's the DCC one.
DCC, not MCC.
But there's another one I got that's a supplement for it that's called the Data Orb of the Metakind.
That's the one.
And this is essentially, the book is the Data Orb.
Yeah, the whole book is that, yeah.
Which is amazing. Really creative and cool. So, I guess, how many thumbs up you give this one, Nick?
I definitely give it 5 mutated thumbs out of 5. It's one of my favourites.
So it's one hand with 5 thumbs.
All thumbs, all mutated in green.
That's a good score. That's the highest thumbs Nick's ever given. So
yeah, I love it. I absolutely love Mutant Crawl Classics.
Me too, man. That's it for this segment. That's it for the segment. Let's get on to something else.
You bunch of mutants.
You goddamn animal. The caution that you lose. Do you know this place between the flame? The boy is tough. The boy came with the big cars. Friends defend. One became a guy because I was crazy. Insane in the membrane. Brain in the oven. Insane in the membrane. Brain in the oven. You've obviously just heard a very weird jingle just then. And I will explain what this segment is, I promise to you. So, when I used to work for a bicycle company, no, I don't want to incriminate anyone. When I used to work for nobody, we used to pass a lot of time by putting stuff through Google Translate and translating it back.
Yeah.
And when we put the lyrics to Insane in the Brain through it, it came back with Insane in the membrane, brain in the oven. So that explains that. So essentially what I've done is I've translated, the blurbs from the back of the book of a lot of RPGs or RPG products. I've put it through fucking Haitian Creole to Japanese to Chinese and then back to English. And let me tell you, man, it gets fucking weird.
It's been on a journey.
And you got to guess the RPG. So question 1. So RPG 1. Originally published by Iron Wolf and Iron Pro Balls, vampires bring the first story discoveries. This is the first best thing in the world, and that's why the great idea is the idea of Jan Weiss. What RPG is that?
The only thing I can think of is Vampire the Masquerade, because it's a vampire.
Spot on. That was an easy one.
the only one that gave it away.
Yeah, so, number 2. Hunters join the universe, serve all types of rape by the government. Oh, sorry, I forgot to warn that this does get a bit weird. Serve all types of rape by the government to try strong forces, use bribery, murder, spying, diplomacy, war. Bookworm rape was abolished, rape by violence against humans, the Earth and the Sun's population, the perpetrators accused of fulfilling the agreement, and even those who developed explosives and even guards were paid for blood transfusions. Researchers have found that insecurity and evil spirits threaten their lives in England. Sorry, that was a long one. The other ones are shorter, I promise. And that was just a bunch of nonsense.
What is that? Rippers?
No, you're
Only
wrong.
because it said London.
That was Judge Dredd.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Now, this next one, right, this is where the Google Translate really took a shit.
Oh, yeah.
And this gets weird, because some of the words that it came back with weren't even English. Nunanaga. Landalogi.
Oh, no.
Mutant and Magic Victory. Nugan does not have 0. You do not have people in disaster. Mutant seekers, robots, killer. Destructive debris to protect ancient science. Nugan. Look for victory and technology. You can afford the highest possible medium.
Nugan. What the fuck's Nugan?
I don't know, but it kept saying it throughout the whole thing.
Why did the last one say rape all the time?
I don't know, man. It's so bizarre. Okay, this is the last one. Okay. A man how? Man so bored capera to our mang. Just really... Alright, immediately, she is the beauty of Texas. Texas's mother's cocktail. And she is...
Texas's mother's cocktail.
And she is back in Texas, and her abilities include the ability of the bath. You are a state. John, Texas. And love passed the cow and put in a pine box. Texas, you've got one Eteng who is looking for a lady. Quan. Advanced devices on encrypted emoticons. And other similar buildings in the local yard. It is beautiful. You others have died, but a little different.
It's like an advert for Texas. You are Texas. That is ETU.
That is. I like that at some point it
said Pine Box. That's
John
right.
Texas and Love Past Cow.
Yeah.
It's like, that could be a name of a character in ETU if you're really uncreative.
Right.
I'm John Texas.
And I got a cow. Oh my god, yeah, that's broken.
Oh, it really is.
That's wicked though.
Alright, so that was Brain in the Oven.
Brain in the Oven.
Next up, we're going to move on to some Dragon or Blaggin'. Do a little quiz bitch.
Quiz bitch.
Roll up, come and play Dragon or Blaggin', a game where you could win big. Under this box, do I have a dragon, a mysterious creature of mythical origin, or is there in fact nothing? Am I blagging? Well, find out now, only £10 a go. You, sir, come and play the game. Who? Me? Yes, you. Come on, come and play. Dragon or Blaggin'.
Welcome to Dragon or Blaggin'. And this particular episode of Dragon or Blaggin' is it a beer or is it a game?
That's one of life's greatest mysteries.
Yep, that is. So I'm going to give you 4 names, and you need to tell me out of them 4 names which one is the beer and not an RPG game.
Got ya.
Okay. Number 1, we have Heavy Gear, Noctum, Hoppy Dragon, or Wayfarers.
Hoppy Dragon is the beer. I know that one, sadly. And also Heavy Gear. I was looking at buying that recently.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
There, well, that was quite an easy one. Next one, Space Station Middle Finger, Warheads, Hillfolk, or Bash.
They all sound like the names of ales. They literally do. But I'm going to go for Bash.
Incorrect. It was Space Station Middle Finger.
That's a beer.
Yeah, that's a beer.
That's a good name
that's
for a
beer. Ale. Next up, Daredevils, Bitter Woman, Blue Rose, or Deomin.
Deomin. So which one is the beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go for Bitter Woman.
Yeah, well done.
Yes.
Yep, Bitter Woman.
I'm getting so many points.
There you go. Yeah, you're doing well. Next up, Dragon Star, Happy Birthday Robot, Lightspeed, or Amber's Hot Friend.
Hang on a minute. So the thing I'm not focusing on here is the fact that a lot of these are games.
So yeah, 3 out of the 4 are games.
The
RPG
fuck is Amber's
games.
Happy Robot? I'm going to go for that for the beer.
Which one?
Amber's Happy Robot.
No, you've mixed up 2 there. So is
shit.
it Dragon Star, Happy Birthday Robot, Lightspeed, or Amber's Hot Friend?
I'm going for Happy Birthday Robot.
No, it's a game.
Is it?
Yeah.
What the fuck is that?
Amber's Hot Friend. That's the beer.
Okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
Right.
What the fuck is that? What was the name of the game? Happy Birthday Robot.
Happy Birthday Robot.
What is it?
Yeah, it's a tabletop RPG.
Sounds
We'll
great.
look into it later. Watch this space.
Yeah.
Lastly, there's 2 here. It's 2 beers. Even More Jesus, Colt, spelt with a K, Optimus Prime,
I think we've spotted an obvious one here.
and Quinn.
Okay, I'm going to go for Optimus Prime and Quinn.
One's correct. Optimus Prime is, of course, a beer, and the other one is Even More Jesus.
That's a good name, man. I once went to an ale festival and all of them had completely wacky names. There was one that was brewed specifically to be really strong and barely had any flavour, and it was called Slap in the Face. But they had an even stronger one called Punch in the Face.
Brilliant.
And it was like a 10% ale. It was good, man.
I saw one on there called Robo Hop, but I thought no.
That's good. But so with this segment, I got a lot of points. What did I win?
You won a slap in the face.
Yes.
There you go.
Nice beer. All right, so that's it. And next up, we're going to move on to some electro letters. Let's do this, shall we? Shall we do this?
Shall we do it?
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
Our listeners, you know these guys, man.
I know these guys. I know these guys. I think they want to hear the electro letters.
All right, we'll do it. We'll do it this once.
And then that is it.
That's
you
it.
lot.
I'm sick of your misbehaving.
Sick of it.
Get out.
In the future, you will be able to send a letter or parcel from anywhere on the planet. This, sir, is the electro letter.
So for electro letters, we asked for your weirdest, stupidest ideas for RPGs that you think would actually be fun.
Yeah.
So I was going to go for just weirdest and stupidest, but I knew what these idiots would do. So yeah, they have to. The caveat is they actually have to be fun.
Yeah.
Now we start with one from Victor Ulansky. He says, to mix DCC with the characters/spells/locations from Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards.
What?
Now I have played Epic Spell Wars of the Battle Wizards.
What?
It's a card game. but I don't remember anything about it. So I'm going to assume that's a good idea, and we're nicking that and copywriting it.
Thank you very much.
Next up, Matthew Jones comes in, and he starts off strong. A Pokemon-style game where you collect different naturally occurring vape juices to cast vape cloud-based magic. Get out, Matt!
As a vapor, that angers me.
You make me sick. See, he had me at Pokemon-style game. Immediately, my thoughts went to, hey, let's collect goblins, orcs, ogres, and fight them in an arena.
That's cool. Next up, Sid Andrews comes in. He says, I have wanted to run Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy game, probably using Savage Worlds. It seems like it would be a silly and fun game. It would probably be a flop. No, I think that'd be good.
It might be, but then if you put the the infinite improbability drive in there?
Oh, right.
I haven't read it in a while, but I think you can just end up anywhere, literally anywhere.
That's true.
It might become one of those lol so random type things.
Oh god. Well, I guess the thing is, you could just do a sci-fi game that's a bit wacky.
Yeah.
And just borrow bits from Hitchhiker's
Red Dwarf,
Guide.
Hitchhiker's Guide, because those are essentially just poking fun at sci-fi whilst also being
sci-fi. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah,
that's good.
Next up is Uncle J Raz. He says, I want to run Flash Gordon or some sort of space pulp type game influenced by my favourite genre of music, stoner rock. The Marijuana Naughts of Mars or the Lone Stoners of Saturn, something like that. Travelling through the Hashtaroid fields to reach the fertile green planet Lomia.
Wicked.
What does Lomia mean?
Don't know.
Okay, me neither.
I never knew there was a thing called stoner rock.
Oh yeah, Pearl Jam is stoner rock, I think.
Really?
Isn't it? I don't know.
Do they just never get that excitable? It's just
no. You go watch them at a show, mate. Half of them are asleep.
Yeah,
it's awful. The funny thing is that I've got a mate who listens to some genre of music called stoner doom.
Oh, what?
And then stoner doom jazz.
Stoner doom, but the thing is that they're like two polar opposite of each other, because stoners are generally normally quite kind of chill and that.
Not if you're paranoid, not.
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot of doom there.
That's where the doom comes in. James Bonner comes in. He says the players are simple creatures trying to simply enjoy life in their dungeon, but have to embark on ridiculous adventures to acquire greater power and dangerous guardian monsters in order to protect their home from the constant invasion by heroes seeking glory.
Cool.
Great idea.
Yeah. Shogun Pumba from Dem Drunk Blokes comes in with, what about a fantasy game where you actually run a shop or a tavern, have to deal with stock requirements, dealing with customers who are all extremely typical hero trope, like people and security of your establishments as well. Yeah, that is a great idea.
That's a great one.
Fun. Imagine just having a magical general store.
Yeah.
And all your job is dealing with annoying adventurers.
Yeah, and you know what? That could actually feed into the story of an RPG as well, because you have to go and acquire things to sell in your shop.
That is so... Yeah, that's wicked. Or you get people, or salesmen come in and, you can try and
the big wigs at the Coke Corporation are coming in trying to buy your magic item store, and you're like, fuck you, I don't want your money.
I want to play that. Can we play that? Right, Dem Drunk Blokes, invite us over.
Buy a shop in Lamentations. It can happen, man.
Yeah, mate, that is so sick.
Okay, so Torre B. Peterson, he says, I don't know, it might be a woman. Well, she says, currently working on a one-shot where the Tinfoil Brigade find out that they were actually correct, and they're the only ones who can foil the Illuminati's nefarious plans. This includes Theresa May as a reptilian, flying monkeys, Boris Johnson on his bike, and Lord Buckethead, Intergalactic Star-Lord. Is that a genuine theory that people have about a guy with a bucket on his head?
What, Intergalactic Star-Lord? Hope so.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's as ridiculous as the reptile thing.
Tell us more.
The thing is that most of those conspiracy people are also stoners, so this could be linked to fucking... Uncle Jay's game.
There we go.
But then you get a bunch of weedy, nerdy ass stoners just trying to save the world, and they're like, yeah.
But they can never get around to actually doing it.
Yeah, because I'm going to save the world eventually.
Should we eat first?
Yeah. Has anyone got any biscuits? Lewis Pineda, he says, I did a Savage Worlds one-shot for my group that was the Multiverse Action News Team. Basically intergalactic Ron Burgundy types covering all the crazy shit that happens involving Rick and Morty, Purge Planet, Cronenberg Planet, King Ticklebean. I wish I knew what any of that meant.
King Ticklebean.
King Ticklebean's a great name, and I'm going to nick it. But I have no idea what all that means, but that's a great idea. He says he also ran Nightmare on Sesame Street.
Oh yeah.
All the Muppets became possessed by demons. Some great answers.
Terrifying.
So have you got a stupid game idea that you think would actually be good?
Yes, I do like the idea of making a really mundane thing fun for a game. So even though the premises is mundane, that is really cool. Something like that, or where you're like.
I think Gary ran a game like that where I think it was called Peasants.
Yeah,
and it was
He'd run it a few years ago at FGCon.
Yeah, and it's like you're just lowly people in the
from
village.
a shitty little town, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's actually DCC kind of does that a bit.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's like you're always doing epic things, you know. And it would be cool if you just got wrapped up in it for no reason.
Yeah.
You know, and suddenly a demon comes to town. All the heroes go to face him, and they're like, "Have at you, demon!" And then they all die instantly. It's like you're this guy who just shovels shit for a living. He has to deal with it. The town drunk.
I like that, or I like it. I do like the idea of like I think we've spoken about it before, but like a Mystery Men type game where you're like the worst superheroes in the world.
Yeah.
Like
and you know what? That would be fun. And like rolling for superpowers, you've got like it reminds me of like that episode of Family Guy where Meg her fingernails grow long and she scratches a bloke and he goes, "Ow." You might have something like that.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'd like something like that. So something that's like on the surface is mundane, but when you look at it, it actually makes it really fun.
Yeah, totally.
What about you?
I'm gonna nick Matt's idea and make it good. I'm just gonna go for a Pokemon style game.
I like that. Yeah.
Not exactly with the cutesiness and things like that, but just take any system. This is the thing. The trouble is the balance. But take any system. You have to go out, capture monsters, beat the Elite Four. You know, go to all these different gyms where which are
towns in a medieval setting. Yeah.
Yeah, you go to those towns and then you battle monsters.
That's sick.
And they're like, "Oh, you've only got a goblin. I've got a
dragon,
Tarrasque, or something crazy like that."
Yeah, I like it. It's cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So yeah, that's my idea. I think it's kind of dumb and would never sell, but
it's fun. It would be fun though.
It would be fun.
Pokemon fantasy.
We actually got a few more answers than that from the listeners, but we didn't have time. We didn't have time to read them all. So, yeah, thank you all for sending them in, and maybe we'll read them out next time.
Yeah, sure.
But that's it for a show, isn't it?
That's it for a show.
We've done a show, didn't we? Done a show.
Done that show.
Right, outro. Play the sound effect.
I'm casting Magic Missile.
Why are you casting Magic Missile? There's nothing to attack here.
I'm attacking the darkness.
Fine. You attack the darkness.
We just want to say, we've got contact info. Can you believe we did it?
Finally done it.
They all said we couldn't. Take that, Dad.
Look at us now with our contact info.
We got an email address.
Oh yeah, why don't you email us?
3trpgpod@gmail.com, the best email address known to man.
And we've got it.
We got it. In addition to that, we're on Facebook, Twitter, MeWe, all of that junk. Some people have said that they want us to do a Discord server.
Haven't we got one?
Yeah, we have.
We just don't go on it.
And I don't know the address, so find that out.
We have got one. We have got Discord. We
need to be more active on it and start inviting people over. Because I want another... I think our listeners need a place to channel their horrible energy.
Okay.
Because you look how quickly the MeWe thing filled up with hentai gifs.
Oh god, yeah.
That's going to be our Discord, and if we channel all the weird ones there, then we get the nice ones.
That's true. All right.
We kill them all.
Then we kill them all, and then all our fan base is just hideous people and nutters.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Well, I'll tell you what. We'll look into the Discord thing. Promise.
We will.
And we'll try and get that back up off the ground.
But if you like the show, please donate $1 on Patreon. We're on there, so just search us up and donate if you like the show, and it'll keep us going. Otherwise, we might starve to death.
We might starve to death. Exactly.
You don't want that.
No, we don't want that.
That blood will be on your hands, listener.
And we need to pay for this internet connection. Otherwise, we can't ever put it online.
That's a good point.
Patreon powered.
No, that's not true. All the money goes back into the podcast.
It totally does. We recycle it all and try and find cool new stuff for you.
That's it for another show.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening. Just remember that D20s are cool, but 20Ds, well, that's a good time.
Oh yeah, you
Goodbye,
freaking
all.
mutants.